Bowser, the main villain of the Mario franchise, leader of the Koopa Troop, and has kidnapped the princess many times and now has been rivals with the Mario brothers since the very beginning. But does anyone think that Bowser being a villain is getting old? When I mean old, I mean that is Bowser losing his role becoming a villain? After the years of finally catching up to him? Well, I don't really think so. Nintendo is still using him very frequently as the main antagonist, especially in games like Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and he's still very iconic to people's eyes. But much like the role of Peach being the damsel of distress is becoming stale, I don't think Bowser's villainous acts are at that level yet, but it is getting there. I think what makes him still relevant is that Bowser always does something new every game to keep him fresh. He's tried to plan a wedding, tried to conquer the entire universe, and has recently turned into a literal castle, so Nintendo isn't really done with him yet. But if Nintendo actually decides to pull the plug from Bowser being the villain, what path would lie for him in the future? Well, I thought of 3 ideas Nintendo could use that would make Bowser a much more developed character as he already is, and to keep the story for future games much more unique than the same old. So without further ado, let's start with idea number 1. Okay, so the first idea I have is the possibility of there being a new villain that is introduced, taking over the Mushroom Kingdom and eventually the entire world. Mario and Bowser have to team up to defeat the bigger threat. I've seen this idea get thrown around once in a while and I honestly dig this idea. The RPG series had Mario and Bowser team up several times before, so that aspect is still less than far-fetched. Plus, with the idea of a brand new villain taking over, it would be really interesting to see what Nintendo could cook up with it. So yeah, I think seeing this type of story integrated in a 3D Mario game would be really cool. I know some of you could argue that it's a bit repetitive as it's been reused several times in RPGs before, but I genuinely think that a story idea being used in a mainline game would be way better for Mario characters, as their personalities aren't really explored aside from the Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario games. But aside from that, who would the new villain be? Probably some god from another dimension, like, I don't know, Maltese. Also, editor's note, we now know that Bowser is helping Mario and Luigi in Brothership that's coming out in like 2 weeks, so it goes along with my point. Now, the next idea I have is something most people would agree more into. The possibility of a character who already exists in universe becomes the new villain for a new game. The only twist is that Bowser's nowhere in sight. Now, this hasn't been the first time this has happened in the series. The first game to do this was Super Mario Bros. Had Wart as the final boss, who was leading an entire new army of species, even though the whole game was revealed to be a dream. Another game that had this was both Super Mario Land 1 and 2. This alien named Tatanga was the villain. He kidnapped Princess Daisy and tried to rule Sarasaland. And then there's Wario, who tried to take over Mario's island for himself, first debuting in Super Mario Land 2, and is a well-known rival to Mario. The chances of this happening again in the series is uncertain, but I think Nintendo is more open to making another villain to replace Bowser for one game. But now let's finally go on to the last idea I have. The final idea I have in mind is Bowser to have his own game. The idea of this has been going around online recently, and I genuinely think a solo game starring Bowser could happen at one point. A plot I can think of is someone like Bigger Threat taking over Bowser's kingdom. Much similar to Forful from Bowser's Inside Story. You could throw the Koopalins in there and have a wide ton of enemies to aid you as you progress. It'd be really interesting to see how the bad guys of the series would act in this change of role. Now, I could see this sort of being like a hack and slash or a beat 'em up, which would fit really well for Bowser's acts. Many other Mario characters have gotten their own game throughout the years, so the fact that the main villain of the series doesn't have his own game yet is a little baffling. I can see this releasing sometime during the Switch too, as with the Switch, the curtains are starting to close for third party or first party games. So yeah, that's my 3 ideas on where they take on Bowser in the Mario series. If you have any ideas I haven't discussed yet, let me know down in the comments or tell me what you think of these ideas. Do you think Bowser should stay as the villain, or do you also agree with me and say, yeah, this is getting old now, let's switch it up to someone new and keep it fresh? I think other medias of Mario can like have Bowser as the main villain. For example, like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, I think he can stay as the villain. But in terms of like the games, I think they can change it up a bit, similar to how the RPGs are doing it. So yeah, make it happen, Nintendo. I'm curious to see your thoughts. So yeah, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching and have a good day.